Good to go.
We are live, everyone.
All right, thank you. So sorry for the technical difficulties there. My name is Roger Noakes. Thanks for joining us tonight. We're bringing you Noir from a Hard Place. Let me just pull up my screen with my script on it, sorry. It's a virtual noir at the bar hosted by Rock and a Hard Place magazine. My name is Roger Noakes. I'm the editor-in-chief at Rock and a Hard Place magazine. If you aren't familiar with us, we're a fiction magazine publishing stories about the people on the bottom of society, the losers, the marginalized, the sick, the outcast, the oppressed. These are stories of the desperate and what they do next. Check us out on our website at rockandahardplacemag.com. We have 2 issues available for sale. We have 9 readers for you tonight and some music. Joining us, we have our editors, Jay Budkowski, Jonathan Elliott, Albert Tucker, Nikki Dawson, Katrina Robinson will be joining us next reading for May 9th, same time. Check us out. The authors we have published in our 2 issues that will be joining us are Di Booth, Cindy Rossmus, Jeremy Broyles, Jacqueline Fremore, Ellen Leverone, and S.A. Cosby. We're also going to have music from Robbie Budkowski. So hello, everyone. We're in the panel view now. We'll change that in just a second. We're going to get started. Our first reader is Di Booth, who's very generous to join us from a time zone away, an ocean away. He lives in Chester, UK. He enjoys painting pictures and exploring dark places. Di Booth's prize-winning work.
Embarrassed at his fumbling, she'd gone. As soon as the dawn sun poured between the blinds, Peter was awake and studying them again. The cracks. They were hard to miss when his bed was butted flush up against the wall, his nose inches away from the yellowing plaster. Perhaps Becky was right. It was an old building. The rooms were suffused with a delicate sniff of damp. At first he'd noticed just a few, but soon he could see that the whole wall was a web of hairlines, like crackalaw on an old master. There was probably mildew. He was likely breathing in mold spores day and night. He wouldn't be surprised if the entire thing came down on him, a mud bank in rain. But it didn't. When he was out and about, Peter mostly forgot about the cracks. But at night they became more preoccupying than ever. Of course, it was impossible for them to be visible there in the mute dark, but he was aware of them. Lying there, quietly pulling humid breath on the edge of unconsciousness, they troubled him. Emblazoned upon the inside of his eyelids, a migraine of flickering capillaries. He started to think about the cracks a lot. Huh? I said, Becky drew the words out patiently. Pay for your thoughts. You're miles away, lost. Peter felt it, dragged from contemplation by her voice. He felt a sudden irrational lurch of guilt to be caught thinking about the cracks by an actual person. He concocted a weak smile. I might need glasses. He looked at her, paused at the entrance to next door, bag of groceries at her feet. Her frown was perfectly in focus as she said, "Oh, it comes to us all. Age, right?" "Right, yeah." The optician set him straight. He didn't need glasses. They tested for glaucoma and retinal detachment, injury and cataract, but confirmed only 20/20 vision. Lying beneath his sheets, he watched the walls. The cracks seemed to pulse as if the building was breathing gently. Bringing up one hand, Peter trailed a nail across the plaster. It felt smooth, unbroken. He slid the edge of his thumbnail along the path of one crack, trying to wedge it in, but to no avail. The fissure was too fine. Even when he started to pick, he couldn't get purchase. He must be imagining it, and yet. He inched closer, lulled by the invisible hum of the air, until his nose touched the wall, his forehead, until he was near enough that his eyelashes brushed the paintwork, but still the cracks were there in sharp focus, running deep into the walls, deeper than the walls. He jerked back, heart galloping and palms slick. Around him, the cracks telescoped, back into the fabric of the building and further, out into the air beyond. Peter crushed his eyelids shut and keened. The night stretched. Eventually, he was exhausted enough to sleep. Morning shook him like a bleak dream. For a moment, he thought he was dreaming. Then he knew that feeling of witness, of being seen. Not eyes beyond the cracks. The cracks were eyes, sucking at his existence with their vacuum gaze, running deeper than 4 meek dimensions. Peter covered his face with his hands. The cracks were everywhere. They were in the air. Outside was no escape. They drifted like gossamer, beckoning him in. They bisected time. The world, the planet was fracturing. You look like death. Becky picked up the free newspaper from her doormat and folded her arms, regarding him warily. You sick or something? Death. Suddenly it seemed like a remote concept. Peter gaped. The air bulged. Can't you see them? His voice sounded breathless, not his own. See what? The cracks. He grasped at space, at the filaments of nothing webbing the something. It's all falling apart. There's nothing there, Becky said, a thin thread of emptiness peeling slowly across her forehead. And that's it. Thank you. And thank you again for having me. And I'm sorry if I've got to run off a bit early. If you see me disappear, it's because it's 11:30 here. So cheers.
That's all right.
See your evening.
Di, thank you, everyone. That was Di Booth, who joined us from England. His story is in issue 2 of Rock and a Hard Place magazine, which you can find the link for, the Amazon link for, on our website, rockandahardplacemag.com. Great story, Di. Thank you very much. Okay, next we have a fellow New Jerseyan, Cindy Rosmus. She is in both issues 1 and issue 2 of Rock and a Hard Place. Cindy says in her bio that she looks like a mob wife and talks like anybody's from West Side Story. She's been published in the usual places, including Shotgun Honey, Hard Boiled, Horror, Sleaze, Trash, and the Flash Fiction Offensive. She's also the editor, the wonderful, and art director of the webzine Yellow Mama. Cindy, thank you for joining, and take it away.
Thank you, Roger. Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Great. I'm going to read 3 short pieces, very short, from my new collection, Stupidiousy. And the first story I'm going to read is called Stupidiousy. June, an okay month. Not sweltering hot, but you know that's coming. And roses. For like a week, they spring up in neighbors' bushes, like that tight-ass bitches who lives next to Scratches. Bitch to Lou, cause Snake picked one for Nina, the crack whore. Can you believe that shit? Lou switches on Scratch's ceiling fans. Over 1 fucking rose. Behind the bar, you slice limes. Getting territorial. You're the queen of $2 words. 4 o'clock on a Sunday. She'll be laying in the sun, enjoying retirement. But no, she's worried about, excuse me? You both turn around. A customer, all cutesy with her finger in her mouth. A foreign load, you bet Lou's thinking. Nobody pisses him off more than somebody who walks in trashed already. What would you like, you say? I'm looking for, as she giggles. I don't know who, but a friend said I can find him here. Lou checks her out. Blonde, 40s, with that 50s stolid look. More Monroe than Mansfield. Pastel halter and long skirt with a slit. Thick legs, but Lou can't get past those loose tits. You want a drink, he demands. I guess, she says. Chocolate martini. Lou and you share a look. Kahlua and milk, you say. Bitch won't know the difference. She nods and struggles onto a bar stool, tosses a sequin purse on the bar. So, you grab the Kahlua. Who'd you say you were looking for? She don't know, Lou says sarcastically. A friend said he'd be here. He puts his arm around her. This guy, what's so great about him? Smirking, you look away. What can he do, Lou says, that I can't? I need him, the chick says, to kill my husband. You almost dropped the milk. 2 years you worked here. Seen all kinds of stupid, but this bitch, you bite your lip. Can't even look at Lou. That brute, she says, that son of a bitch. She starts to cry. Look what he does to me. She raises her skirt. Both legs are bruised. But yours would be too if you got that trash before 4 p.m. and slammed into shit. I brought the money. Out of the sequin purse comes a fat roll of bills. Let me ask you, Lou says. When you look over, he's counting the money. You come in a strange place, looking for somebody, don't even know the bastard's name, carrying thousands of How much is in here, doll? She sips her drink. He says the guy wants 5,000. 5 large. Lou keeps counting, just in case. To knock off your old man. He slaps the bills down. You don't know who he's looking for, who you're looking for. Who says he's the right guy? The chick wrinkles her nose. There's a secret word. Only this guy knows it. What is it, you ask? She said, something. Stupendous, Lou says. Stupefaction? Now he's behind the bar. Maybe looking for a dictionary. She crosses her bruised legs. Stoop and something else. Stupidity, Lou says. That's it, she says. That's not a word. You of all people should know. Yes, it is, Lou says. But you came to the wrong place, doll. There's dead silence. Outside, you hear kids yelling up the block. A dog barks. Oh, the chick slides off the stool. Maybe I did. She doesn't seem drunk anymore. Lou doesn't answer, just leans across the bar staring at her. Something about his demeanor chills you, suddenly. After 2 years of thinking he's just a big, lovable dope. The chick leaves fast. Like she knows that right where Lou's standing's where the gun's hid. His Desert Eagle 44, big enough to blow away her brute of a husband. Lou pours milk into a glass. Stupidity, he says, smirking. He swirls the milk around before downing it. But you? Fuck, you need a shot. This next one's called Secret Secret. Same characters. Almost the same. Please, I said, it can't wait till you get here. Lou almost hung up on me. I gotta do everything. You got a full bar? Not open yet. So go in the room, get the decorations, and hang them the fuck up. When I groaned, he added, some shit's up with my son, okay? Which one? But he'd hung up. Wearily, I reached under the bar for the key. Halloween was my favorite holiday. Fun-sized chocolate bars, spooky movies, but I hated decorating. That was work. Good thing I bought candy. Lou was too cheap. Who gave you a job, I thought suddenly, when your unemployment ran out? And yeah, I trudged across the room. Some shit with his son, Junior, no doubt. Anthony, the youngest, was brilliant and a star athlete. Anthony, Lou always said, was too good to be true. Some shit meant Bluesy, that slutty blue-haired chick Junior'd been fucking. Him and God knew who else. Nobody'd seen her lately. The room was Lou's secret storage space. So much shit he kept in there. Booze, tools, even letters from nasty customers. Years back, one lady bitched that Lou didn't put enough booze in his drinks. Told me to go back to bartending school, he'd said, smirking. And decorations, more for Halloween than Christmas. Orange and black garlands, fake cobwebs, and the trusty cardboard skeleton. But where? I stood there staring. A hoarder's delight it was these days. Cases of beer topped by Lou's and his son's old clothes. Lots of them. In one corner, neon beer signs were piled up. An ancient TV, probably black and white, was high on a shelf. Christmas lights were draped over broken bar stools, but no sign of Halloween stuff. Oh, geez, I thought, and almost walked out. Junior, right? Lou had said. Good kid, but he thinks with his cock. Got no common sense. Grudgingly, I started looking through shit. Junior was Lou's mini-me with long curly hair and the same smirk. But Lou had really lived and loved lots of wrong women. Done shit he'd paid for, some of the time. Illegal shit. There was no Desert Eagle 44 in the secret room. That was under the bar. It was like hopeless, but behind the beer was more stuff. What looked like a bony paper leg taunted me. Finally, I thought. The skeleton was torn in parts thanks to some drunk bitch. Last Halloween, she pulled it down and danced with it. Yeah, it was all here. And beneath the garlands was the plastic jack-o'-lantern Lou put the candy in. The jack-o'-lantern was glowing. I jumped back like it burned me. And it was humming, actually vibrating. Something was inside it, and not many Milky Ways. I stood there, blood thumping in my ears. Inside was a cell phone. Mom was the caller. 20 missed calls. Next to the phone was a turquoise wallet. My sugary lunch wasn't sitting well. I reached in a jack-o'-lantern. A strand of hair stuck to me as I took out the wallet. I know whose picture would be on the driver's license. Bluesy was blonde Sandra Kopek back then. Was this Junior shit? Outside, the back door buzzed open. I dropped the wallet and ran out. Anthony, whose good son, was behind the bar. He'd opened the bag and was eating fun-sized candy. Hey, he said, but without smiling. Should I tell him? I wondered. For the cops, or should I keep my mouth shut? Who always took care of me? I forced to smile. Your dad, I said in a too high voice. He said to decorate for Halloween. But I forgot the skeleton and garlands. Hurriedly, I locked the door and turned back around. He'd moved down to the register. Directly below it was the 44. But he wouldn't know that. Like, he wasn't the type to hide a phone and wallet in a plastic pumpkin or make a slutty chick disappear. Even he'd fucked her himself. He was the good son, wasn't he? I heard an unmistakable click. Too good to be true. The last one I'm going to read is called Kaboom. Yeah, it was me. And so what? He deserved it. 3 Christmases, RJ ran off with our gifts. Missy's dollhouse, Patty's Legos. This time it was the baby stuff. Year-old Lulu, his own kid, with the same cold, almost black eyes, like bullet holes on those shows where the bad guys always win. I knew he would do it. That one present, that's the one I rigged. The prettiest package wrapped in silver and red foil with the little stuffed kitten sticking out of the bow. That's the only thing I hated about doing it. The stuffed kitten got blown up too. Never mind why he did it. Why'd he keep stealing our presents? Sold them to get high. And Mom always let him, with that hopeless look she got, like when my brother Marky took another dump in his pants. And he was no baby. We were all fucked up, all 5 of us. Me, I was supposed to be dumb, but at the same time smarter than some grown-ups. How else could I build a bomb? A special kid in a special school instead of a real 6th grade class. Nobody was allowed to say why I was weird. But toy companies made special dolls for kids like me. Just for girls, I guess. The one girl in my class kept spinning around but could recite all the presidents backwards. An old mousetrap I found in the basement, the storage area. Our building's super old with lots of fun shit all over. Wouldn't have been fun for this poor mouse, though. Glad I found the trap first. And more fun shit on the other end. That weird guy upstairs, I think they were his, the shotgun shells. All those shows on like the true crime channels, you learn a lot. They're so stupid to give directions. Not everybody who watches wants to blow something up, but there's always one kid who's sick of this shit, like his mom's eyes all swollen more often than not, who busts out crying when she's nuking mac and cheese or wiping ass. When the pretty foil comes off and the box opens, the bar in the trap hits the primer. 00 buckshot, 9 per shell. A nice big mess. You'd think Bomba would be glad. But when the cops came, the lady cop looking like that weird redhead comic, Mom screamed and screamed. Chunks of RJ mixed with chunks of the dealer, the cops said. So you couldn't tell who won the Giants cap. You couldn't tell who was black and who was white. The kitchen stunk. Marky had shit his pants again. For once the cops came with good news, but nobody with me was happy. Not even Lulu. It was mostly for her I did it. She looked at me all mean. With Mom wailing in the background and the other kids holding each other, that lady cop kept her eye on me, the only one smiling. I hooked my pinky around Lulu's fingers. In her baby face, RJ's eyes told the cops that yes, I was special, more grown up than kid. Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. Everyone knows Cindy Rosmus, reading from her book Stupidity. Please go check it out and check out her magazine, Yellow Mama. Also, forgot to mention that we're supporting tonight and encourage you to go check out the Asbury Park Book Co-op, formerly known as Words Books. We had an event before. We're going to have trivia, and we're going to give the winners of those trivia questions gift certificates to the Asbury Park Book Co-op The link for that store is in the Facebook comments. Okay, our next reader is an editor here at Rock and Hard Place magazine, and that is Nikki Dolson. Nikki is a writer of short fiction, which has been published in places like Shotgun Honey, Tough, Thuglet, and Bartleby Snopes. She's also written a novel-ish thing, All Things Violent, and put together a short story collection, Love and Other Criminal Behavior, that's out later this year, and I'm certainly excited to check out. Nikki, take it away.
Hi, y'all.
Hi.
So I'm going to read a story from that new collection. It's called Take the Hit. Kendra Hayes was backed against the ropes and getting worked over by Athena Dulane, a 5'10" blonde batterer who was 9 years younger and 6 inches taller. Athena was a rookie, keen on making her name for herself and using Kendra as the punctuation. Kendra's gloves were up high in a wasted effort to protect her face. Soon, very soon, her opponent was going to make her promised move, and that wide, flat forehead of hers, the one she tried to cover up with teased and hairsprayed bangs when she was outside the ring, was going to come down like an anvil on Kendra's face, and down she would go. Match over, TKO. Take the hit, take the hit, take the hit was Kendra's new mantra. She winced when the next fist landed, her breath stuttering out. Maybe the money wasn't worth it after all. Kendra and her opponent were the opening act for the main event. Two local boy fighters from adjacent cities. Their hometowns' high school rivalries would be resolved by the outcome of their fight. They were fighting in an overly warm old high school gymnasium, and the fight were the building's last event. Over Kendra's head, the school's old basketball banners hung limp from steel support girders. Next week, the gymnasium would be demolished, making room for an ethanol company's expansion into rural Illinois. Again, Athena's fist connected with Kendra's side, and an earthquake rolled through her torso. Where's the goddamn bell? Take the hit. Kendra pushed off the ropes, delivering two quick punches that made her opponent lean her long torso away and step backwards. Athena recovered and returned her own combo, slower than Kendra's. Keeping up with her end of the deal, Kendra allowed the last punch, a weak left hook she'd seen coming, to glance off her jaw. She staggered back against the ropes, sliding left a couple steps. The blow had stung, but worthwhile things are often painful. She only needed a moment to see the room. To Kendra's right, past a table of 3 perspiring judges in suits, were rows of men in folding chairs. The men, all standing up, some of them drunk, were yelling, "Fight, fight, fight." She spotted Maury's redheaded self standing in his cheap navy-colored suit next to the double doors that led to the gymnasium's locker room. She'd seen the referee, a bearded, beer-gutted man who likely refereed based on his betting tendencies, leaning back in the opposite corner of the ring, his head turned toward Maury. She'd seen enough to understand. Maury was holding up the bell. Either that or time itself was running in reverse. No way was 2 minutes this long. Her arms were getting tired from the weight of the borrowed 16-ounce gloves, from having to hold back her natural aggression, from ignoring her gut instinct to beat her opponent to her knees, then spank her like the baby she was. Only 20 years old, and Athena thought she knew everything. The gall of her to show up in Kendra's bar, talking trash, trying to push her buttons to get Kendra to fight. Nobody would blame you for being gun shy, Athena had said after bellying up to Kendra's bar like she belonged there, as if her being there was an everyday occurrence. Your last fight with Adams was a battle, that's for sure. You went 5 rounds before she took that low blow. You were lucky that headbutt of hers missed. Athena took a sip from the bottle of beer she'd asked for. Kendra had done her job and served the girl. It wasn't in her job description to talk to the other customers, so she hadn't said anything, only looked up at Athena from behind the bar and tucked one of her mini braids back behind her ear. She waited for the girl to say something that mattered. Athena set the bottle aside, leaned over the bar, and told Kendra, with a smile that some might mistake for kindness gracing her pale face, that if she got in the ring with her, Athena wouldn't miss. Kendra had smiled back, wide and unflinching. She kept smiling until Athena's own smile weakened. Athena backed out the front door. The three regulars in the bar, old men retired or fired from the steel mill or the Caterpillar factory, and who knew Kendra used to box, raised their drinks and toasts to her and said, "Bring back the bear." Kendra was often thought to be too soft, even for a woman, to be a boxer. Her face was round and her nose was small. Her eyes were wide-spaced and friendly. An old boyfriend called her face cherubic. An ex she didn't talk to anymore likened it to a dog's, all cute and playful till the fangs came out. Kendra was partial to that description. Back then, she'd be a dog or a bear or whatever it took to work. Now she'd only do what was necessary. Athena, it seemed, was in love with punching Kendra's torso now, tagging her repeatedly on one side, then the other. She swung a wild punch at Kendra's head. Kendra dipped and shifted her stance. She felt the rhythm of the fight settle over her, like always. Often, Kendra felt energized, almost euphoric this deep into a fight. The natural beat of the moments between the bells, she'd find a second wind and it always propelled her to victory. But today was different. She wasn't here to win. Her ears were hot from the glancing blows and sweat ran between her breasts. She paced her breathing to the blows, waiting for that bell, waiting for Maury to be a stand-up guy and not still be all about the money. She wasn't feeling pain exactly, only the thud of blows given and received. There was a dull throb in her head. One of Athena's punches had connected and driven the beads woven into Kendra's braids deep against her skull. She felt her ponytail loosening. A braid hung limp behind an ear. Someone yelled, "Kick her out!" Ran down at Kendra. "Hear that?" Athena said, coming closer, her voice muffled and distorted by her mouth guard. "Gonna do that? Gonna fuck you up?" She reached for Kendra, trying to corral her into a corner. She wrapped her long arms around Kendra. Instinctively, Kendra's head went down and pillowed against Athena's chest. In the clinch now, they both delivered ineffectual punches into each other's side. Kendra knew Athena was waiting for the ref to pull them apart. Then she'd deliver the promised headbutt. Kendra decided she wasn't going to take another punch. She was all alone in that ring. Maury wasn't thinking of her or Athena. To hell with taking a fall. She felt ill at the thought of lying down for this chick, this wannabe boxer. When Maury called a week after Athena's visit, she should have hung up on him, but he'd asked the right questions at the right moment. How much for you to fight again? How much for you to lose? She'd gone home that night to her empty apartment and figured out what it was worth to her to get back in the ring. Kendra had left boxing after she found out she was pregnant. One day she'd been a boxer, then the next she'd been a retired one. It'd been so easy to trade one life for the promise of another. Could she do it again? In her closet was the baby book with all its brief memories, the sonograms and a lock of newborn hair, and a card from a fertility clinic in Chicago, received 3 months after the funeral. She decided that night that she could do it again, as long as Maury met her price, $20,000, more than enough for 2 in vitro fertilization treatments. With what was left of the 20, combined with the money she'd saved the last 3 years since her baby died, she'd have enough to be fat and pregnant. No need to work and no struggling to pay bills for over a year. She'd agreed. And now she was getting bruised by a woman with a weak left hook. Fuck that. And I'll stop there. Thanks, y'all.
Amazing. Thank you, Nikki. It was great. Boxing story. Amazing. Okay, now we have some music from Rob Witkowski. We're going to have a jazz guitar interlude. First, before I do that, let me get you your trivia questions. Now, you enter the questions in the Facebook comments. And we're going to have 2 now. And the first answer correct for each will get a $15 gift certificate to the Asbury Park Book Co-op, which you don't have to be in New Jersey to use. You can go on their website, which is also in the Facebook comments. So the first trivia question is, in the REM song, "It's the End of the World as We Know It," this American composer's name follows the line, "The other night I drifted nice continental drift divide. Mountains sit in a line." Right? So that's the first one. Again, let me say it. In the REM song, "It's the End of the World as We Know It," this American composer's name follows the line, "The other night I drifted nice continental drift divide. Mountains sit in a line." And then what? Right? My sister, when we were in high school, memorized all the words to that song and would sing it, which is kind of insane. The second question is, in the movie Outbreak, this virus is said to be more deadly than the Ebola virus. I just watched it. It's on Netflix. It's a great timely piece to watch, even if it's really outlandish. So again, second question, in the movie Outbreak, this virus is said to be more deadly than the Ebola virus. Put them in the Facebook comments. We want to see your answers. Even if they're wrong, we still want to see them. All right. The music interlude, Robbie Bukowski. He began playing the guitar at a young age, inspired by a family of music makers. He took up bass guitar and trumpet shortly afterwards and started performing in local punk bands at the age of 13 years old. In 2014, he graduated from Montclair State University with a BA in music performance and a concentration in jazz studies. Rob has since toured Italy, Canada, and the West Coast with the surf noir instrumental trio Black Flamingos. He also performs regularly with Plato Zorba, the Royal Pacifics, and Jet Weston and his Atomic Ranch Hands, to name a few. Robbie, go ahead. All right, for the second part of tonight's reading, I'm going to hand it over to our managing editor, Jay Bukowski.
Good evening, everybody. So we're still waiting for those correct answers, and my girlfriend's over here like kicking me because she knows the answers. So get those answers in so you can win a $15 gift card to the Asbury Book Co-op. Our next, and thank you so much to my brother, Rob Bukowski. You can see where all the talent in the family went. Thank you, Rob. So for our next reader, we have one of our issue 2 alumni. His name is Jeremy Broyles. He earned his BA from Doane College, now university, in 2001, his MA from Northern Arizona University in 2008, and his MFA from Wichita State University in 2011. And in fact, a fun fact, he actually teaches one of our other issue 2 alumni. We didn't know that at the time, but it was kind of a neat that he's a professor for Annalisa Morellis. His published work includes a novella titled What Becomes of Ours through ELJ Publications and numerous short stories in such journals as The MacGuffin, Santa Clara Review, and Pembroke Magazine, amongst many others. So now we're going to turn it over to Jeremy Boyles. Hi, Jeremy.
Hi, everyone. Thanks very much for having me. I really, if you'll forgive me a little brown nosing here to begin, I really appreciate being included. This is my kind of mag, man. The island of misfit toys is where I feel like I really belong, and so it's really. I'm appreciative to be here. So thank you specifically to everybody who not only put this together, but I'm certain worked very hard on that mag. So Roger, Jay, John, Nikki, Alan, anybody I'm certain I have missed. Thanks so much for all of that. So while I'm here on this island of misfit toys, I'd hope that everybody out there who's listening and taking a look at this doesn't mind if I do a bit of experimentation in that I recently completed a novel and now the real work begins. And so I'm just going to read a little bit of that particular novel. And because, you know, toilet paper and peanut butter be damned, as long as I have story to hear and listen to, then by God, I'm going to be okay. So this novel is mostly about surfing and self-destructive behavior. And I'm really good at one of those things and really bad at another. The novel itself is called Flatwater, and this is how it begins. The sunny, salted air swirls while sets of waves, pregnant with the energy of the tidal world, tumble to the beach where they wash out in bubbled froth. The sky above is a righteous blue mirroring the sacrosanct water below. It is July, and the top layer of sand heats to a simmering crust, but the wind sliding off the churning Pacific tempers the day. The surf is ideal. Matthew waits on the wave that only now is a bulging swell twitching under the surface like a flexing muscle sliding beneath oiled skin. But even at 14 years old, he can feel the shape of the water and what it will become. The swell builds. There comes a gentle pull of suction, like a quick gasp of air before a held breath. Matthew turns and paddles the board forward with 4 sharp strokes, and the swell, at last grown too big, catches and trips forward. Matthew, with a fluid, blurring grace born of faultless instinct, stands atop his board right in the pocket of a curling mythic wave that could make converts of the godless and heathens of the devout. That is surfing for him, epiphanous. Those rushing electric moments when everything loses its grip on him, and he is the truest version of himself sliding across the ocean like a skipped stone. But it goes wrong all at once. Just as Matthew tucks in and carves his weightless winding wake through the water, a tourist with his scuffed rental board tries to catch the same wave, even though it's far too gone. Matthew jumps, and for a moment, he believes himself a spontaneous evolutionary miracle, breaching from the depths to sprout functional gills on his neckline and a distinct dorsal fin bursting through his wetsuit on his back. Time, however, runs out, and evolution winds backwards as he, just an air-breathing mammal, plunges into the chaos of the breaking wave. Underneath, he tumbles at the whimsy of the water and washes ashore like so much flotsam spat from the sea. Matthew wipes the salt from his eyes and blows it from his nostrils as he gathers his board under his arm. He finds the tourist staggering through the shallows, his own unleashed board now beached. I suppose that one was my fault then, right? Matthew says to the man whose ill-fitting red trunks appear pinned in place by his swollen belly lapping over the drawstrings at the front. What's that? The man asks as the remnants of a spent wave catch him at the back of the thighs and jolt him forward a step. Didn't you see I was already on that wave? You didn't, did you? You weren't even looking. Oh, sorry about that. I'm still pretty new to this. Then here's some free advice. Pay attention and stay out of the way. If you can't handle that, you're probably better off building sandcastles with your fat kids. Excuse me? Hey, I'm talking to you. But Matthew walks away without acknowledging any of the man's words. and the tourist with the bulging belly has his voice wiped out by the staccato screams of seagulls and the splash of the surging sea. That was a good wave, Max says as Matthew drops into the sand at his side. So good, in fact, that Ohio wanted in on it too. Ohio? Matthew asks. You know the tourist types, Matty, his older brother says. I can't prove he's from Ohio, but he just looks like he is, don't you think? They share a squinting smile in the insistent July sunlight. Speaking of which, Max says, he lounges prone in the sand, braced on bent elbows, and he gestures with a quick tick of his head toward the tourist in red trunks now standing over them. Hey there, pal, the man says. He still has not yet collected his board. You were giving me some advice just now. I thought you might want to try again, but make sure I can hear you this time since I couldn't quite make it out before. He speaks to Matthew, but Max answers. I didn't hear either, but I'm guessing it has something to do with you fucking things up for everyone. Max tilts his head to the left and into shadow. He does not move otherwise. Don't take it personally. We all fuck up sometimes. I'm guessing you haven't done much surfing in your life, but it seems like a bit of common sense would tell you that trying to catch a wave somebody else is already riding is bad form. If you didn't know that before, now you do. A couple of smart asses with smart mouths, the man says. I'll be damned if I came all the way out here to get lectured by a couple of teenagers. The man's face is bloated, like his blood no longer circulates. It just collects in his trembling jowls that inflate the angrier he gets. Max remains piously still. Then don't, he says. Walk away. It's that simple. And the man does just that, huffing across the beach like the blood is in his mouth now and tasting of iron and garlic. Max laughs and Matthew joins. The surf is ideal, and Ohio is so far away as to be another planet where life somehow sorted itself out minus the help of an ocean. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Jeremy. That was awesome. So for our next reader, we have Jacqueline Frymore. Frymore. Jackie was one of our issue 2 alumni. She won the MWA's Golden Mystery Short Story Competition in 1995 and has been writing ever since. Her stories have appeared in Alfred Hitchcock Mystery Magazine and Blue Murder, among others, and her latest is forthcoming in Ellery Queen Mystery Magazine. She has just finished her first novel. And now I'm going to turn it over to Jackie.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Good? Okay, good.
Yep.
Thanks so much for having me, guys. I really am so honored that I'm among this company, so thanks so much. I'm going to read the story that you guys published, The Lives of the Workers in the Cancer Factory. Iris Gunderson, 61, receptor assembler. It's a knack I have, really, no more than a flick of the wrist, but it's hard to teach and not everyone can do it. The trick is to attach the receptors at just the right angle so they'll dovetail with the receptors on the normal cells. It's got to be a tongue and groove kind of fit. It's true that you get schematics and we color code everything, but you need a good eye and, as I said, a certain flickerish wrist, or else the angles will come out all wrong, and what you've got then is an unusable carcinoma cell, fit for nothing but the slag pile. Since Mr. Slocum started, we haven't had too many defectives. The old foreman, Mr. Dresser, Yesser Dresser we used to call him because of the way he sucked up to management, he'd always make us exceed the production quota so he'd look good and earn himself a fat bonus at the end of the year. But Mr. Slocum, he's a man who appreciates quality and gives us the time and means to achieve it. Garbage in, garbage out, he says, whenever the higher-ups try to get us to work faster or cheaper, or likely both. And because Mr. Slocum makes sure we get what we need, fully 98% of the cells we turn out do the job they're supposed to do. That's 98%. No other company has that kind of record. In the 40 years I've been working at OncoCell, I've seen several good foremen, but none as good as Donald Slocum. Matter of fact, a number of years ago, management wanted to give me the job, but I declined. I like working with my hands, I said. That's all I want to do. Not once have I regretted turning them down. The cells are so interesting. There's such variety. Breast cancer cells, for example, are a soft lime green and smell a little like moss, whereas lymphomas are milky gray and sticky as a rule. Well, we all have our favorites. Mine are the glioblastomas, the brain cancer cells. They're a filamentous pink like cotton candy, and you have to use a special epoxy to attach the receptors to the fibers. It's delicate work. As I said, not everyone can do it. I'm certainly going to miss this place when I retire in June. I think Mr. Slocum is more worried than he lets on about replacing me. Iris, he said the other day, I've seen a lot of receptor assemblers in my time, but you have the magic touch. Sure you won't consider staying on for another 40 years? Which is his idea of a joke because we both know it's the company that's forcing me out. It's not my choice. The real question for me is what I'll do with myself when I retire. Cultivate roses maybe, or take up woodworking, something I can do with my hands. Still, how will I live another 20 or, God forbid, 30 years without doing the work that I love? Maybe one of my own glioblastomas will do me in and spare me the worry. Oh, I'm joking. What I'm trying to say is that I live for my work. I wish they'd let me stay. Donald Slocum, 47, factory foreman. My job as factory foreman carries a cartload of different responsibilities, but now that you asked, what I truly do, I like to think, is serve as the workers' union rep since OncoCell doesn't have one. You won't find it in my job description, but that's what I do. Management, you know, they prefer to keep some distance between themselves and the workers, and truth be told, the workers feel the same way about the white-collar desk jockeys. That's why each of them sends me when they've got something to say to the other. I'm the man with the silver tongue. I can get them to listen to reason. Of course, I was born and bred in the South, around Knoxville way, and I still speak kind of slow and deliberate, which helps. Not that but both sides don't often have good points to make. The workers now, they want to keep their jobs, put food on the table, buy clothes for their kids, the basics, and they worry about anything that might interfere with that. Say management wants to rearrange the shifts. Well, the workers come to me because they suspect management's trying to cut their pay. Or say management hires a couple of immigrants, like that VJ in the shipping department. Then the workers come to me because they're afraid of being replaced by cheaper labor. Well, I know what they're going through. I've been one of them for almost 30 years. And so I take those concerns to management and try to make sure the workers get a fair shake. Management has worries too, but theirs are a mite longer range. We have to stay competitive, they say, because globalization is changing the way we do business. Cancer used to be a growth industry, they say, but no more. People nowadays are exercising more, cutting fat from their diet, quitting smoking, eating cruciferous vegetables, and who knows what all. We have to tighten our belts, they say, make sacrifices for the good of the company. So I take that message back to the workers, trying to get them to understand why some cutbacks are just plain necessary. One thing I never will do, though, is allow management to compromise the quality of our products. I don't put it that way to them, of course. I'd be terminated quicker than you could say sarcoma. But every time they start hinting about cutting corners, I bring up that article in Cancer Cell Manufacturers Monthly they're so proud of, the one where our cells were rated #1. That stops them right quick. Just between you and me, I'll tell you what it is I worry about. It's all this genetic research. Just yesterday on the news, I heard that scientists can now genetically engineer cows to give low-fat milk straight from the udder. That's right, straight from the udder. Now that seemed like a fine thing at first listen, but then I realized that if scientists can do something like that, how long will it take them to identify the cancer genes in people and engineer them too? Think about it, no more cancer. And then everyone at OncoCell, management and labor both, will be out of work, just like that. VJ Banerjee, 20, shipping clerk. I would like to say that I like this job very much. I am glad to be in America. I very much like America. I am studying very hard in night school so that I may one day become a citizen. My job is not too difficult, but I must always pay close attention to be sure I send all packages to their correct and proper destinations. I've been told many, many times that it is of absolute importance that the correct and proper people will be receiving our products. And so I will tell you something that happened this past week. As I am filling out the shipping form for a package, I see on the purchase order a shipping address of Akron, OK. I am greatly puzzled by this. From my studies of American geography, I am sure that the city of Akron is in OH and not in OK. What to do, I think, what to do? Finally, I take the matter to my supervisor, Mr. Denton Cruz. He praises me very much for finding this error, which is not at all my fault, but the fault of some other person, some very careless and unfortunate person, and says to me that if I will continue to do this very good work, I will move up in my job and make more money. I am very glad when he says this to me, because then I will be able to send even more of my wages to my family in Delhi. They are very poor. Even though I am now only a shipping clerk, I wish one day to become a manager like Mr. Denton Cruz. I wish to wear a handsome suit and to have a large office with a very, very large desk and my own space in the parking lot for a beautiful new car. When I become rich, I will send for my family to come to America so that they will also have as much good fortune as I. I know this will happen. In America, anything is possible if you work very hard. Denton Cruz, 32, Fulfillment and Customer Service Manager. Only in America, I'm telling you, only in America. You make a product, and a damn good product too, turn a healthy profit, keep hundreds of people employed year after goddamn year, and what do you get? Do you get appreciation? Do you get recognition for a job well done? Fat fucking chance. You get whiny, do-gooder, bleeding heart, hippy-dippy, tree-hugging liberals calling you, writing you, faxing you, and emailing you to scream about how your products kill innocent people. Innocent people. Now there's an oxymoron. So this is what you do about it. Dear Mr. or Mrs. Socialist, you write, thank you for your concern, take it under advisement, appreciate your interest, yada, 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 sincerely your pal, Denny Cruz. End of story. Every once in a while, though, maybe 1 in every 100, you get a joker who refuses to lay down and die, who calls or writes or faxes or emails you again, and this time he's righteously pissed off at being kissed off and now has the name of a real person to call, write, fax, or email. So what do you do then? I'll tell you what you do. You get on the phone to this asswipe and have a little chat. Don't you see, you say, how cancer keeps the world's population from exploding? How it's better to die after you're allotted 70 than to live forever, depleting the earth's resources until there's nothing left for future generations? Surely an intelligent mammal like yourself can see how we're doing a service for mankind. We're thinning out the herd just like hunters do for the good of the species. Assuming that said asswipe isn't anti-hunting too. If that doesn't work, you switch to plan B. You're a practical kind of guy/gal, you say. Just take a minute and think about the number of people who make a living from cancer. Doctors, insurance claims adjusters, pharmaceutical sales reps, wig makers. Do you really want to put all those people out of work? Because if they lose their jobs, where do you think their welfare money is going to come from? That's right, my friend, from you, John Q. Taxpayer. Welfare and taxes, that always gets him. Man, it pisses me off. I believe in the American way. Great products, big profits, everybody wins. And I'll tell you something else. The company does a lot of good in the community. Grants for the art museum, music classes for underprivileged kids, the works. This is a company that gives back, even to the employees. Everyone here from the CEO to the new girl on the floor, Katie Fine Piece of Ass McDonald, is part of OncoCell's profit sharing plan, which is more than most other companies can say. No, my friend, there's nothing wrong with this picture. Not a goddamn thing. Catherine McDonald, 23, nucleus inserter. I don't know how these people stand it day in and day out. Punch and drop, punch and drop. It's getting so I can't stand looking at anything with a dark spot in the middle. Bullseye cookies, black-eyed Susans. They used to be my favorite flower, but I almost screamed when Bob brought me a bunch last week. And I'm one of the lucky ones. Ever since the steel mill closed and the automotive plant went bankrupt, this town's been dying. All the young people are moving away looking for work. We would have moved too if it wasn't for Bob's garage. He's doing all right, so when I was laid off 3 months ago from the mill, we decided to stay here and see if I could get another job. I wouldn't be working at OncoCell if I had any choice. I think there's something creepy about making cancers. But Bob explained it to me. Honey, he said, it's no different from making cars or toasters or chocolate bars. If there wasn't a demand for them, the company'd go out of business, wouldn't it? I guess he's right about that. Still, it's kind of creepy. The people here are weird too, like that Mr. Sinclair, the CEO. Every morning at 8, his voice comes over the PA leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance. We actually have to stop what we're doing and stand there with our hands over our hearts, reciting the pledge like grade school kids. And there's that Iris works over in receptors who sits talking and singing to herself all the livelong day. I hope I never get like that. I'll kill myself first. Punch and drop, punch and drop. I hear that rhythm in my dreams. Bob says that maybe in a year we'll have enough saved to start thinking about having a baby. The company's got good medical benefits and gives 6 weeks of maternity leave. 6 weeks? That's like a vacation. Although I hope I can get out of the nucleus section before I get pregnant. I hear crazy old Iris is retiring soon, and if I could move up to receptors. Well, it'd be more money for one thing, a lot more. I guess I could put up with the creepiness then. Besides, Bob says, if there was something bad about making cancers, wouldn't the factory be out of business? Wouldn't the government have shut it down a long time ago? I guess Bob's right about that too. If there was anything wrong with it, they would have shut it down a long time ago. Haviland Sinclair III, 68, Chief Executive Officer. On the advice of my attorneys, I have no comment at this time. Please be sure to take a brochure on your way out and have a blessed day. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Jackie.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm not sure if this government would necessarily shut it down, but yeah, some government might.
Yeah, well done, Jackie.
Thanks.
All right, our final reader in this group, he's one of the OG editors for Rock and a Hard Place. One of my best friends. Producing editor Jonathan Elliott has written for The Guardian, Health Central, Cinema Blend, and Americans for the Arts. His play Forward Motion is published by Play Scripts Incorporated. His novel You Have to Take the Stairs is forthcoming. His consultancy business, Elliott Communications, has provided public relations, fundraising, communication strategy, web design and development, and content and social media marketing for not-for-profit organizations and small businesses since 2007. He has worked in marketing and communications for not-for-profit organizations providing new media marketing and fundraising within the creative economy. He was recently featured on the disability advocacy podcast, The Access Champions, as a leading voice in accessibility growth and change in creative institutions. Again, this is one of my best friends. He's the guy that got me into Rock and a Hard Place magazine, and I'm so happy to welcome Jonathan Elliott to the stage. John.
God help you, Jay. Hi, everybody. I apologize for a couple of things. I'm in my almost 6 week now of being hospitalized for complications for coronavirus. It did a real number on me. I was in a coma for 4 days. It took a real solid whack out of me. So I have trouble catching my breath. I'm still on this attractive oxygen cannula, and I've grown this fierce ass hospital beard. So that's where we are. What I'm going to read tonight is a short piece I wrote a couple years ago via Jay for a Halloween tradition he took part in. And this short story is called Pegs. So I hope you enjoy it. I need to switch on my phone to my notepad. So if this means I just turn into a still picture of myself with voice, please forgive me. All right. Thanks very much, gang. 1 sec. Again, this is called Pegs. It's hard to slip into a space not meant for you. Like one of those children's toys with a solid sheet of wood with holes in it and a bunch of blocky shapes to correspond to each hole. Pressure and pain and resistance and splinters teach us very early on what happens when the pudgy little pyramid meets an opening meant for the fat cube. But as we get older, we learn the virtues and potency of force and grease and compromise. And somehow the shapes work their ways on through the spaces we've got, appropriate or otherwise. This is how we get what we want. This is how I get what I want. This is why she is in front of me now. It began downstairs at a gorgeous new bar in Asbury Park, patterned after that French film, The Red Balloon. Nothing but dark woods and flights of fancy and classy fonts, all mishmashed together, tinted in a little bit of crimson and scented in assorted varieties of chocolate. She found me. This is different, and I am off balance because I am very good at doing the finding. Sometimes the nights end in misery and rejection, and sometimes I locate a lady who is willing and waiting for me, and what you might imagine would happen does indeed happen, and we go our separate ways. There is a third option, of course, which I believe I outlined at the start of this conversation. I'm a little bit of a gentleman, so details are probably out of sorts, but it is incredible what might happen if you put your mind to a task and then commit to never mentioning it again after the fact. Bruises heal. Tonight is none of the above. Tonight I am found. She's talking to me. She wants to know me, and I am distrustful of that because it means she is not only willing and waiting, but wanting, curious of and about me in a way women never are because of my too slight shoulders and look of a strong chin. I have decided those are my flaws, and it must be so. But she is on me, arm around my shoulder, casually cool in her smile and conversation, and incendiary in her breasts and thighs and clingy dress, and the way she licks the very center of her lips as she waits for me to finish my part of the conversation. And we speak of my unremarkable job and her unmistakable laugh, and what we think of this restaurant and how the drinks taste, and she chuckles loudly and places her forehead on mine. It is a sign. I do not know what to do in these moments where I am wanted, and there is no need to push the pegs into places they don't exactly fit. We are suddenly upstairs near condo. I am unsure how it happens, but there we are. I did not know these units were finished or that anyone was living here, but there we are. I am disrobed and reduced to flesh. Her hands are everywhere, and I fall back onto the bed and she does her work. I do not know what to do and don't understand how to participate under these circumstances. So I let go and she carries out her ministrations. I sweat and I stare, and she says nothing as her nails press hard into my sternum, leaving 8 half moons as a signature on my chest. I breathe in a little too deep and I release. She smiles. She kisses me. I don't know what to think, so I think of nothing. The tension leaves my body, and I don't even feel the knife slip between my ribs. It fits perfectly, like it's always been meant to go right there. And she twists it a little, just a gentle flick of the wrist. She puts on her earrings. She slides back into the clingy dress. I feel the mattress soak underneath me, wet and cold with my sweat and blood. The door clicks shut behind her, and I am left here. And as breath leaves me, this is where I fit. So that's about it. I just want to say I am so very grateful to be part of this weird, wonderful magazine. And I can't tell you how much fun it's been working with initially Roger and Jay and now our entire editorial board to bring you work. I spent about 110 days last year in the hospital, and a lot of our editorial stuff was done from there. And I look back on that and I can't believe how much joy this has brought me and how it's kept me through this part. So the next step is getting me home and getting me breathing right, and then getting issue 3 out. So thank you everyone for bearing with me. Thank you for reading. Thank you for being a part of this. It's meant so much to me.
Thank you, Jen.
Oh,
Amazing.
That was a fantastic read. All right, so we're going to be going into another musical break with Rob Bukowski. But before we do, we have a couple more trivia questions. So we did have a winner on the first trivia question. Tim Walker came in with the correct response to the trivia question in the REM song, "It's the End of the World as We Know It." This American composer's name follows the line, "The other night I drifted nice, continental drift divide mountains sit in a line, Leonard Bernstein." So Tim Walker will reach out to you. We'll get you your gift card.
Tim was in our first issue, and I am by no means surprised that he answered that question.
Yeah, I'm not.
So we know Tim.
To be honest. Our second question, we're still looking for the correct answer. In the movie Outbreak, this virus is said to be more deadly than the Ebola virus. So please get that response in. Our third question for the evening. The end date of this culture's long count calendar set off a panic about the end of the world in 2012. So again, The end date of this culture's long count calendar set off a panic about the end of the world in 2012. Hopefully you guys are seeing the theme for our trivia questions. And then the last question that we have for the evening, and get us the responses over in Facebook. In Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide series, this bureaucratic alien race orders the destruction of Earth to make way for a hyperspace bypass. In Douglas Adams' The Hitchhiker's Guide series, this bureaucratic alien race orders the destruction of Earth to make way for a hyperspace bypass. Respond to those over on Facebook. And now I'm going to turn it over to the most talented Butkowski I know, Rob Butkowski. And we're going to share a link to some of his stuff in the Facebook comments as well, so you can check him out on the internet and Spotify and all the rest. So turning it over now to Rob Butkowski.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Al Tucker, and I am one of the associate editors of Rock and a Hard Place, started with issue 2. And I'm going to be introducing the last group of 3 readers. And it is now my pleasure to introduce our editor-in-chief, Roger Noakes. Roger writes fiction under the pseudonym Stanton McCaffrey. His short stories have been featured in Shotgun Honey, Out of the Gutter, Between Worlds, and Heater. His novel, Into the Ocean, is available from New Pulp Press. He works in communications for a UN agency. Roger, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, everyone. Just to let you know, someone's dog nearby is absolutely losing their mind. So you're going to hear some barking. There's nothing I can do about that. They're just not having a good day. Okay. The story is called No Such Thing, and it is brand new and unpublished. Bash brought his transparent plastic tub, wash rag, and spray bottle to the booth by the window overlooking the parking lot. There was a puddle of milk on the table and a half-chewed mozzarella sticks clinging to the carpeted floor, Cheerios wedged into the seat cushions. As he wiped off the Formica tabletop, he was conscious of his fingers and the 20-something couple at the nearby table staring at them. Across the knuckles on his left hand were the letters S-T-A-Y, and across the knuckles on his right hand were the letters A-W-A-Y. He thought about wearing gloves to work, but figured that would get looks too, and as long as the owner didn't give him grief about the ink, he figured a few sideways glances wouldn't do him any harm. And the owner, a Greek guy with caterpillar-thick eyebrows named Yanni, had been nothing but good to Bash for the 4 years he'd worked at the diner. He hired Bash soon after his release and didn't care anything about anything but working hard. Virus is getting crazy, said Yanni that evening, looking first at the empty tables in front of him and then out at the desolate highway in the distance. Continues more Bash, and I don't know for how much longer I can keep you. After his shift, Bash rode his bike to the grocery store and saw the hordes with their packed carts. All the toilet paper, all the soap, all the hand sanitizer. He took a basket and grabbed some packets of dehydrated soup and canned meat. In the meat department, two women started pulling each other's hair out over the last chicken breast. He watched for entertainment until the police came, and then he checked out and left as quickly as he could, because over a lifetime, he'd learned there was no such thing as a good interaction with the police. Yanni called the first thing the next morning. We must do takeout only, they say. I am afraid that I do not need anyone to clean tables for right now. I hope you understand. Bash lived in a one-room apartment above a hair salon. He loved sitting in his window and watching women go inside. But there were no women getting their hair done now, not in the last week. Watching birds and squirrels on the street, he listened to the news chatter on his TV. They said people were discouraged from going to their second homes. Celebrities were singing songs and talking about how everybody was in this together. It sounded to Bash like people were having trouble following simple orders and couldn't come to terms with restrictions placed over their own lives. He had a certain degree of empathy for that. His first 6 months inside, he felt like he was being suffocated. In a way, the virus looked to Bash like an equalizer. Everyone was restricted. Everyone knew what Bash had felt like for those 10 years. And it felt good to watch them all squirm and know they couldn't have handled what he handled. After Yanni let him go, he ate the way he had when he was first released, going to as many food banks as he could. But the rent, that couldn't wait. So he hopped on a crew of laborers working for a house flipper. When everyone else was quarantined and watching Netflix, Bash would ride his bike to a job site, work 8 hours, and then go to a food bank, carrying a bag of tools on his back and canned food in plastic bags slung on each handlebar. He kept his distance from the other guys in the crew because of the virus and because of his own disposition. They would congregate at break times with a cooler of alcohol and a few joints. How come you don't want none? Said one guy with a blonde Fu Manchu mustache. Just don't, said Bash. I think you're a fucking pussy, said the man. Bash took a breath and finished his sandwich of white bread and Spam. He had an ingrown toenail on the large toe of his right foot. While the other guys continued their mid-shift partying, Bash took off his boot and tore the toenail out with a pair of pliers. That night, he ran over a nail with his bike and it ripped a tire open, forcing him to walk. A lifetime of aggravations, injustices, and the general unfairness of it all stewed in his head as he limped 6 miles home in pain. He walked past a corner house with a big yard and a deck, filled with people drinking out of red plastic cups. He took off his bag, dropped his bike, and went to the fence surrounding the property. All in this together, my fucking ass, he said to himself. Where's my coronavirus party? He took out his wrench from the bag and hopped the fence. Someone off in the distance shouted, "Excuse me, buddy, this is a private party." Stretching his arm out, he knocked the cup out of a man's hand with the wrench. You're supposed to be following the goddamn rules. Her cell phone. He ran to her and tried to grab it. She pulled away from him and coughed in his face. He jerked his head back and swung the wrench through the air without thinking, hitting her in the jaw and sending her and a few loose teeth to the ground. He went to the cell phone that lay a few feet away and smashed it. All in this together? Ain't no such fucking thing.
Thanks, Roger. Next up, Alan Leverone from issues 1 and 2 both is the New York Times and USA Today best-selling author of 22 novels and 5 novellas, including his latest, Chasing China White, released in September of 2019. A former Derringer Award winner for excellence in short mystery fiction, Alan lives in Londonderry, New Hampshire, with his wife of more than 35 years, 3 adult children, and 3 beautiful grandchildren. Learn more at alanleverone.com, on Facebook, or Twitter at Alan Leverone. Take it away, Alan.
Thanks very much, Al. I'd like to thank you and Roger and everybody at Rockin' a Hard Place for including my stories in the first 2 issues. I love the magazine. I love what you're doing, and it's an honor to be included. Anyway, this story is called Sawed Off. I haven't gotten around to submitting it anywhere yet, so it's debuting tonight. Letting Crazy Dave handle the shotgun was a mistake. Joey and I both knew it, but we needed cover for our plan to work, so we buried our heads in the sand and tried to pretend things would be okay. Things would not be okay. The plan was audacious. We would rob our way through the city, knocking over one liquor store after the next, boom, 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 completing our little spree in less than 2 hours. The last store would be located hard by Interstate 95, and after hitting that one, we would zip onto the highway and be gone. We spent hours developing the route that would allow us to hit the maximum number of stores in the minimum amount of time, while also avoiding the police, who, despite their general sloth and stupidity, would eventually tumble to what we were up to. Our first few stops seemed obvious. Washington Street featured a cluster of liquor stores, all catering to desperate, horny men looking to pick up a bottle of liquid courage before availing themselves of the sex for hire trade for which the area was locally renowned. We figured 3 stores on Washington would be about right. Hitting them would take no more than 10 minutes, and by then the cops would be on their way. They'd be certain we were going to continue down the street, certain they would stop us in our tracks before we could finish the 4th job. So after the 3rd, we would exit the area via a side street and move across town. Then we would hit 3 more stores before changing cars. After that, we would zigzag our way toward the interstate, taking down 3 additional stores as we went, before knocking over the last one on our way out of town. Would it work? The plan seemed solid enough, but as far as we knew, no one had ever tried robbing 10 liquor stores in one afternoon, so who the hell could say? But this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment thing. The 3 of us planned for a solid week, debating various routes and potential law enforcement responses before settling on our final plan. It seemed solid. We liked our odds. The day of the heists, we spent the morning placing our stolen cars. The first we would use to begin the job. The second we stashed in the parking lot of a boarded-up dry cleaner shop in Chinatown. We knew by the time we'd completed a half dozen robberies that our first car, a late model blue Buick your grandfather might drive, would have been seen by dozens of witnesses and be all over the cops' radar. So we were going to have to ditch it to have any chance of finishing the job and escaping the city. Our third stolen car we placed 8 miles up the interstate in a carpool lot just off the highway. We figured if we made it that far after robbing 10 liquor stores, we'd be home free. It was a little after 1 when we started. Middle of the day, traffic should be light. People with jobs would be at work, and people without would still be inside their apartments trying to beat their hangovers. First 3 jobs went down nice and smooth, like Jack Daniels after a busy day robbing liquor stores. The sound of sirens in the distance serenaded us as we pulled away from the 3rd place, a dirty little hole in the wall called Pedro's, and I knew we had planned the day perfectly. But there was a problem. Of course there was. Crazy Dave was starting to live up to his nickname. He looked twitchy, flushed, and shaky, and he was moving with the unnatural, jerky motions of someone who'd had way too much coffee or way too much meth. "You okay, Dave?" I asked as we approached the 4th store, located all the way across the city, a couple of miles from where the cops would be looking for us. "I'm fine," he said, even as we both knew he wasn't. Dave's job was to step out the right rear door while I hit the store. He was to pull the sawed-off Remington 12 gauge out from under his long overcoat and intimidate the shit out of any bystanders during the couple of minutes it would take me to clean the place out. But his actions were making me nervous, and even though he hadn't fired the damn gun yet, I could see by his increasingly rash behavior he wanted to. The 4th and the 5th stores went down easy, but I couldn't help feeling a sense of anxiety as we moved the 3 blocks it would take to get to number 6. "Keep it together, Dave," I said, and his only response was to growl something unintelligible. After number 6, we swapped cars in front of the old dry cleaners. We piled out of the now red hot stolen Buick and into the unobtrusive blue Accord. And as Joey pulled out of the lot, fucking crazy Dave stuck the 12 gauge out the rear window and blasted the abandoned dry cleaners building. The fuck do you think you're doing? I shouted. The building's empty, fuck you. That's not the point. We changed rides to stay off the cops' radar, and now if anyone saw your brilliant move, they'll be looking for this car too. Fuck you. Dave was practically bouncing in his seat from tension and pent-up aggression, and I couldn't wait for this job to be over. I swore right then and there this was the last time I would ever work with Crazy Dave. Fucking guy was a powder keg. We crisscrossed the city as planned, me certain Dave was going to do something to get us all 30 to life, Dave getting more and more jittery and unpredictable. But the next 3 jobs went off okay. One more to go, a little mom and pop liquor store next to the I-95 on-ramp called, ironically, Pops. And that was where everything went to shit. I cleaned out the register while holding my gun on the old guy standing behind it, just like I'd done 9 times already today. It was obvious he was pissed off, but equally obvious he knew there was nothing he could do to stop me. 20 seconds later, I hit the door at a dead run and sprinted to the car, sliding into the back seat and yelling, "Go, go, go," as if it needed to be said. The car stayed put. "Dude, go," I said again, and Joey nodded in the direction of the sidewalk, where Crazy Dave stood, sawed off leveled at the old bastard from the store. The dumbass had wandered out the door and stood staring wide-eyed at Dave's Remington, looking exactly like a guy about to meet his maker, which he was because Dave pulled the trigger. The Remington boomed and the old guy went down, and Dave slipped into the Honda. Joey was screaming and I was screaming, and the car still wasn't moving. And Dave said, "We need to go." Joey hit the gas and we squealed into traffic and hit the on-ramp at 70 per and climbing. Joey and me still screaming in shock and horror and fear. I grabbed Dave and forced him to look at me. "Why?" I shouted in his face. "Why? Why would you do that? We were about to get away clean." "Fuck him," was Dave's explanation. My heart was slamming in my chest as we hauled ass up 95. Accessory to murder, life in prison, or maybe even the needle. Joey and I were now stuck with Crazy Dave forever, because if he were to be caught or we were to cut him loose, the first thing he would do, and I mean the very first fucking thing, would be to give us up. Life in prison or the death penalty, or being stuck with that crazy murdering fucker Dave for the rest of our lives. Unless. I leaned forward and whispered to Joey, "Unlock the doors." He was still screaming, so I had to slap him before repeating myself. "What the fuck are you talking? Just do it," I shouted. I didn't think Dave could hear what I'd whispered to Joey, but he was watching us with what looked like increasing suspicion. I would have to move fast or risk getting ripped to shreds by that goddamn sawed-off, which Dave had already reloaded. Joey shook his head in confusion, but did as he was told. The second I heard the click of the locks releasing, I acted. I reached across the back seat and slammed Dave's head against the window as hard as I could. It wouldn't knock him out, but might stun him long enough for me to finish him off. He gasped and moaned, but I was too busy trying to save my ass to congratulate myself on making it this far. I wrapped my right fist around his shirt, grabbing as much material as I could hold, and then opened the rear door with my left. Behind the wheel, Joey was screaming again, but he hadn't taken his foot off the gas, and the wind tried to force the door closed. We must have been doing 90, zigzagging up 95 as cars in all 3 lanes scrambled to get the hell out of the way. I shoved Dave hard with my shoulder while pushing with my fist, and although he'd been stunned, Dave must have figured out what I had in mind because he grabbed me and held on for dear life. So I let go of his shirt and slugged him in the face, and Crazy Dave tumbled out the door at 90 plus. Behind us, brakes screeched as cars tried to avoid running over the poor soul who'd just fallen out of a moving car on the highway. I didn't bother to look out the rear window because it didn't matter whether anyone had run Dave over or not. There was no way he could have survived the fall, not at that speed. And I sure as hell didn't feel guilty. All I felt was angry at myself because we never should have let Crazy Dave handle the shotgun. Thanks very much, guys.
Whoa. Okay. Thanks, Alan.
Thank you.
Our last reader of the evening is S.A. Cosby from issue 1. He's a writer from Southeastern Virginia. His work has appeared in numerous magazines and anthologies, including Thuglit, Crime Syndicate magazine, Tough, and many others. His story Slant 6 was selected as a distinguished story in Best American Mystery Stories 2016. His story, The Grass Beneath My Feet, was nominated for an Anthony Award earlier this year. His first crime novel, My Darkest Prayer, is available on Amazon from Intrigue Publishing. He still lives in Virginia with a cat, a dog, and a cantankerous squirrel. Sean, take it away.
Hey everybody, can you hear me? All right. Also, I wanted to say that my upcoming novel, Blacktop Wasteland, will be available July 14th. So it's available for pre-order now. So I'm going to read a story called Doubt Thou, the Stars of Fire. It was originally published in Tough magazine, but it was originally a Noir the Bar piece for the Durham Noir the Bar, put on by my good friend and fellow writer Eric Pruitt. So Doubt Thou, the Stars of Fire. What you want to drink? A rum and coke? Vodka and cranberry? Them mumble mouth motherfuckers down at the club be drinking that pink Ciroc, but I know that ain't your thing, is it? Amir asked. I shook my head. You got some Jack Daniels? I have some of that, I said. Hey, Shonda, get Chester Jack and Coke, he yelled into the kitchen. Just a Jack, I said. Amir nodded. Hey, just a Jack. Tell you what, bring the whole fucking bottle, he yelled. Shonda didn't respond, but I was sure she heard him. A few seconds later, she came sauntering out of the kitchen, handed me a heavy-cut crystal glass filled to the brim with whiskey, with 2 lonely ice cubes dropped in there for decoration. Then she sat a mostly full fifth of Jack Daniels and a red Solo cup on the glass coffee table between me and Amir. She didn't look at me and I didn't look at her. When she walked away, I stared at my drink like it was my 9th grade algebra homework. Amir poured himself a shot. 5 years, Chess. Man, we lucked out on that shit, didn't we? Amir said. He took his cup to the head. You really lucked out. You only got a year, I said. Amir nodded his head slowly. He was almost able to pull off that look of solemnity he was going for. Hey, man, you didn't get the needle. Manslaughter ain't that bad. And now you out. It's been what, 3 weeks? It's like you never left, he said. I killed half my drink with one gulp. I had to keep my mouth occupied. I wonder if he noticed how tight I was gripping the glass. The whiskey burned like the devil was pissing down my throat. And now you the man, I wheezed after the liquor hit my belly. Amir looked around his living room. He stared at the leather living room suite and the deep pile cafe latte carpet. His eyes pierced at the French doors that led to his patio. I watched him take in the BMW and the Mercedes sitting in his driveway. He tried to hide it, but I saw him glance toward the kitchen, toward Shonda. I'm doing all right, he said finally. I took another sip of my drink. Sabuni said you wanted to talk to me. Amir sat forward and I leaned back. Force of habit. If someone leans in on you when you're inside, they either want to shank you or fuck you. Either way, they're looking to put something hard inside you. Hey, man, I just wanted to clear the air about the way things went down, he said. I sipped my drink again. Nothing to clear up. Your lawyer was better than mine, that's all. I lied. Amir tossed his head back. His long dreads spilled across the back of the couch. Why did that motherfucker fight back, man? Man, we done that Craigslist escort thing 100 times and nobody ever blinked. Then that big son of a bitch wants to try and crack our skulls open. At the trial, they said he was on meth and coke, I said. Yo, that motherfucker broke my jaw in 3 places. He was on some Incredible Hulk type shit, Amir said. I didn't respond. I'd played the night over my head enough when I was inside. It had been on a continuous loop the entire time I'd been in Mecklenburg State Prison. Scene open. Me and Amir bursting out of the hotel room closet like thug life personified. The big naked white guy punching Shonda in the mouth. Amir getting tossed against the wall like a bag of trash. Me hitting the big guy on the back of the head with the lamp. The withering silence that fell over the room as we realized the guy was dead. End scene. It was some crazy shit, I said. Amir nodded. Look, man, I appreciate you not stitching, Amir said. I took another big gulp of my drink. The empty glass mocked me. Better bite your tongue off next time he says something like that. I'm all out of ideas, I imagined the glass saying. I rinsed the jack around in my mouth. I didn't snitch because in the week between beating that guy to death in the relaxed inn and the cops nabbing us, we had come up with a pretty good plan. We just tell the cops we were partying with the dude and a fight broke out and things got out of hand. If we all stuck to the story, we would probably have gotten off with depraved indifference. But we didn't all stick to the story now, did we? I finally swallowed the whiskey. My mouth was numb. The flesh on the inside of my cheeks felt loose and gelatinous. Gelatinous. It's a strange thing you pick up when you're inside, when you have time to read the dictionary from cover to cover. You learn the definitions of all kinds of words. We were boys, I said. I tried to keep my tone nice and even. The few people who came to see me filled me in on Amir's rise to the middle of the Richmond, Virginia drug game. After he'd done his year, he'd gotten up with Shonda. Her lawyer kept her out of jail completely. And she was right by his side as he transitioned from stick-up kid to selling Special K to the club kids. Parlayed that into dealing designer drugs to the hipster douchebags at 3 local colleges. He built his shit solid enough to make some paper, but fluid enough to escape the attention of Johnny Law. Chess, you know me and Shonda, that didn't start till I got out. We was never doing nothing behind your back. It just happened, he said. Hey, Amir, do me a favor. Don't tell me that shit, okay? Nothing just happens. You didn't just look up one day and notice her fat ass, all right? So don't play me like that, man. Y'all together now, and that's all it is. I get that, but don't tell me it just happened, I said. Shonda came out of the kitchen and went through the French doors. She had put on a leather jacket to go with the cold February air. I watched her put a cigarette to her lips through the window. The flame from the lighter gave her butter pecan complexion an incandescent glow. She'd cut her hair short. When I'd gone in, it hung down to her ass, cascading down her back like a waterfall made of shadows. That was the Shonda I knew. That was the Shonda I loved. That was the Shonda who wrote me twice a month for 5 years. The Shonda who dangled a carrot in front of me that kept me going in Mecklenburg. Maybe when you get out. She ended all her letters like that, all 120 of them. I got a job for you, Amir said. The jocularity in his voice had dried up like ditch water in the middle of July. What kind of job? Amir stood up and went into his den. I heard him rifling through a drawer, then shut it hard. When he came back out, he had one of those big brown envelopes in his hand, the kind you mail documents in. I got some fellows coming out of D.C. They're coming into town tonight. They're bringing me a package. Some of that good shit that them Beckies over at VCU like. I can't go get it tonight, so I was going to get you to pick it up from me, he said. Amir tossed the envelope on the coffee table. I stared at it. I glanced out the patio window. Shonda was finishing her smoke. The last letter I had received from her had been written in code, nonsensical words and phrases that only held meaning for us. You know, the way lovers speak. She told me that Amir beat on her, that he treated her like property, that she had taken out a $500,000 insurance policy on him, that maybe when I got out, we could be together if he was out of the picture. I stood up. I picked the envelope off the table. I guess I'm working for you now, huh? He said. Amir frowned. Hey, man, don't say it like that. I owe you, Jess. You did for me, and now I'm going to take care of you. It's the least I can do. You just pick up that package and bring it back here tomorrow, he said. Tomorrow? A sheepish grin crawled across his face. Yeah, man, we going out tonight, he said. Then it dawned on me what today was. I didn't keep track of holidays inside. Not Christmas, not Thanksgiving, least of all Valentine's Day. Images flooded into my mind that made me sick to my stomach. Amir and Shonda at some semi-fancy restaurant ordering what he thought was a good bottle of wine. Amir and Shonda riding the elevator to the top floor of the Marriott to fuck in the same two positions they did at home every 3 weeks. Amir laying on top of her, sweating and grunting like a dying seal. That's when I knew I was going to do it. I held up my right hand while holding the envelope in my left. Amir grabbed it and pumped it up and down twice. His grip was almost comically delicate. He'd gotten soft. I dropped the envelope and sucker punched him. I planted my feet and threw my hips into it. I felt a shock from its way up my arm as my fist connected with his cheekbone. Amir dropped to one knee. He was blinking hard and a thin stream of blood and drool was pouring out of his mouth. I grabbed him by his dreads and dragged him to his feet. 5 years, motherfucker. How many times you fucker in that 5 years? 100? 1,000? After you sold me out? I screamed. I drove his head into the glass coffee table. It cracked but didn't break. A series of fractures raced across its edge. I slammed his head into the table again. This time it did shatter, glass shards raining down on his lush pile carpet. I let go of him and he crumpled to the floor. I grabbed the Jack Daniels bottle from the wreckage of the coffee table. I gripped it by the neck and raised it above my head. We was boys, I howled. I slammed the bottle into the back of his skull. It made a dull thwack. We were ride or die, I said. Thwack. She was my girl, I said. Thwack, thwack, thwack. When I finally dropped the bottle, it was covered in blood and Amir didn't have a face anymore. Shonda came in from the patio and closed the door behind her. You were supposed to wait until tonight. Come back and break in. That's why I talked him into getting you to do the pickup, so you could get the lay of the house, she said. Her honey-coated voice melted over me. Even now, with blood splattered across my face, it made me shiver from the inside out. I couldn't let him touch you one more night. It's okay. We can make this work. Go get a blanket. We take him out through the patio, drop him off near the train tracks, I said. Shonda didn't speak. She headed down the hallway. I wiped my face. My hand came away red. I heard Shonda come back into the living room, but she wasn't carrying a blanket. She had a small nickel-plated .32. For the briefest of moments, I told myself I didn't understand. Shonda, what are you doing? I said, even though I knew exactly what the fuck she was doing. You're right. I can still make it work, she said. The first shot got me in the shoulder. The hole it made in the sleeve of my t-shirt was the size of an aspirin. I stared at it, waiting for the blood to flow, waiting for the pain to come. I turned back to her. We locked eyes. I started for her and she shot me again. My legs disappeared from under me. I fell forward on the remains of the coffee table. It didn't hurt. Not really. Nothing hurt except that millisecond between seeing the gun in Shonda's hand and her pulling the trigger. I could hear her talking on her cell phone to a 911 operator. She was explaining how her ex had broken in and beaten her husband to death, and she, the poor, frightened waif that she was, she had been forced to shoot him. And as the darkness began to overtake me, I wondered how she'd explain the letters in my back pocket. All 120 of them. I'd carried them with me everywhere since I gotten out. Some of them even had little hearts drawn in the margins. Ain't love grand? Thank you.
Amazing, Sean. Like chills. When we were first organizing the order of all the readers, I was going to follow Alan and Sean, and I said no, that's not fair. So just fantastic for joining. Thank you for reading. Thank you for watching on Facebook. I know we had some tech issues. Things were a little bit delayed. People had trouble finding a link. I hope you found it out. It's going to stay on our Facebook page. You can watch, again and again and again. I hope you do. We're going to have another one of these with a different set of writers that have been featured in Rock at a Hard Place magazine on May 9th, same time. We want you to pick up 2 issues of our magazine that are on the website, rockinahardplacemag.com. Also want you to check out the Asbury Park Book Co-op. They have a list of crime fiction recommendations that we've put the link for in our Facebook page. Again, all the writers that we've had join us are Jay Bukowski, John Elliott, Al Tucker, Nikki Dawson, Di Booth, Cindy Rossmus, Jeremy Broyles, Jacqueline Fremore, Alan Leverone, Sean Cosby, and myself, Roger Noakes. Check out everybody's work. We're going to have another set of music from Robbie Bukowski to end the night. Thank you, everyone.